And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Union Catholic live stream as we have an In the Vault episode for you this afternoon before girls basketball. The girls basketball teams are taking on the Dayton Bulldogs later on today. So we're going to start with In the Vault. We're in Season 5. We are in the NFL playoffs. We just had the Super Wildcard weekend with the 6 wildcard games, and we have the divisional round coming up this weekend with the 4 divisional games. So today we are going to talk about the wild card weekend. We are going to preview the divisional playoffs. So a lot to talk about with the National Football League. And then at the end of the show, we're going to have an NBA segment, which Jack Jablonowitz is going to host. So the NFL, we're going to get right to it with the wild card weekend. The first game that we're going to talk about is the one that I think there's the most to talk about, probably. The one that might have been the most shocking to people is the Green Bay Packers going into Dallas and absolutely taking care of the Dallas Cowboys by the score of 48-32. It really wasn't even that.
It wasn't. That game was. At points it was obviously 27-0 at one point in the late second quarter. That game, all the points the Cowboys scored were in garbage time. So that was.
Yeah, a lot of empty calories. It really wasn't even that close. Yeah. So let's talk first about the Cowboys. We'll get to the Packers and where they're at with Jordan Love and how great they played in their matchup with the Niners on Saturday night.
8:15.
So the Dallas Cowboys, have at it. I mean, so much to talk about, but what do you take away from yet another playoff disappointment for them?
Can I read a quote from Albert Einstein?
Yeah.
Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting for different results.
That would definitely apply to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you could blame this loss on Dak because, I mean, he played well. Like, you look at his stats. I know some of that was in garbage time, but he made the mistake when you couldn't make a mistake. Like, he threw an interception that turns into points for the other team with that pick six at the beginning of the second quarter. I mean, I think you blame more of this on Dan Quinn and the way that defense played. I mean, you got to have a better scheme going up against a rookie. I know Jordan Love is great. The Packers have some talented young rookies on the team, but you got to have a better. It didn't seem like the Cowboys were prepared really to go out there. They just kind of got. That's the strategy going up against a team like the Cowboys when they have the best statistical offense in the league. The Packers took the ball first. They went right down the field and set the tone, and the Cowboys never really caught up after that.
I like that call from Matt LaFleur, taking the ball first, saying I'm here. It was like, okay, we have nothing to lose. For the Packers, it was we have nothing to lose here. Let's go take the ball first. Let's give it to our I don't know, second year, third year quarterback who we trust a lot. Let's give him the ball and let's go down.
He really is a first year quarterback. He's been there 3 years, but he's really a first year quarterback. He was behind Aaron Rodgers.
One thing I will say about Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers is that it seems like Aaron Rodgers kind of I feel like there is some kind of a little animosity in that relationship because I feel like Aaron Rodgers just is the type of person where he only feels like job security when he's like the dominant presence in that. I know he's one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the game, but I think that's why he had such a good relationship with Zach Wilson because he never had a threat to really take his job. But Jordan Love seems to be
he's not the only guy like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Brady was always very territorial.
True.
I mean,
I'm just saying,
Aaron Rodgers is the only guy
like
like that. I think most guys are like that. You want to secure your job, so that's been a dynamic that's pretty common in the NFL, where the starting quarterback wants to protect their job, protect their turf.
Yep.
Especially in NFL, where you're going to be the only one playing. Like we could talk about other leagues where multiple players play. So in the NFL, you're going to be the only one playing, so you're going to have to secure that job. You're the only one that's going to go on the field for that position.
So let's go back to the Cowboys. We will get to the Packers. The Dallas Cowboys, I'm not surprised they lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I regret not just picking the Packers and sticking with the thought that the Cowboys are going out early.
You had all the evidence right in front of you. I mean, all the years past is all the evidence you need to suggest what was going to happen in that game. I mean, you look, nothing's really changed with the Cowboys. It's the same regime that they lost last year. I mean, you can't really – it's just something with this team. There's something missing, and it's been missing for a long time.
So what's missing?
Yeah.
I think I said this earlier in the year, and no one listened to me.
Jack had it all covered.
CeeDee Lamb's the only
Jerry
one.
Jones.
Hey, Mr. Luciano, we'll talk about those Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Go ahead, Jack.
CeeDee Lamb's the only wide receiver they have.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to that point where you trust that wide receiver so much, and it's like you need another one.
And
if you want to go far, you need another wide receiver. But CeeDee Lamb, you're trusting him too much, and he's pretty. I don't even know how old he's pretty young. it's hard. It's so hard, and I think they need another wide receiver to take the pressure off him. Even if it isn't as good as him, just another wide receiver in the room that can take the Michael
I think they
Gallup,
thought they
Brandon
got
Cooks,
that
or
with Brandon
whatever.
Cooks, but he's a little bit past his time. I mean, Jake Ferguson's starting to develop into a solid to high end tight end a little bit, but he's still a rookie. So there's still. I mean, Dak Prescott. I don't know if you can any facet of this loss you can blame on him. I mean, I know people just take him as the scapegoat for this team and how they lose every year in the playoffs, but I mean, this was obviously the best year of his career, and I don't even know that that's what you can pin. Like Jack said, I think they gotta get something a little more rapport with some other receivers.
When you get down to the playoffs in every single sport, you expose the weaknesses.
Yeah.
And the weaknesses was we're gonna double CeeDee Lamb, and we're gonna make everyone else beat us on this Dallas Cowboys team, wide receiver, tight end, wide.
And then when they put a cornerback like Jair Alexander, who's one of the best in the game, on CeeDee Lamb,
and they also
that's
gonna
limit his.
They didn't leave Jair Alexander on his own. That's how good CeeDee Lamb is. I mean, it's just like you expose the weaknesses.
See, maybe it's because it's football. I think in baseball, because I personally know baseball a lot better than football. So baseball, I admit, I'll be more prone to break it down in terms of, baseball's not really known for X's and O's, but let's say the X's and O's of the game. Where football, my approach isn't as much X's and O's just because I lack the knowledge of it. I mean,
it's very complicated.
Yeah, I could talk about it on a basic level. So for football, but I think there's merit to this. Football, I tend to focus, and I do this in baseball too, but football I really focus on the intangibles, the
football,
and looking at the players and the coaches, the personnel that show that they could rise to the occasion in the big moments and the big games. I sent out to you guys in the Remind app a couple days ago, earlier in the week. I think it was Monday. I think it was right after the wild card weekend. Maybe it was Tuesday because there was games Monday. So it was Tuesday. I was listening to Colin Cowherd. I was listening to Herd on Fox Sports 1, and Colin Cowherd said something I thought was great. He said that the playoffs bring clarity and truth. And when I heard that quote, I was like, that is money. I sent it out to you guys right away. I wanted you to see that because it says so much, and it really crosses sports, in all these sports, that the playoffs give clarity and truth. So you get a guy like Dak Prescott, and I'm not picking on him because there's a lot of guys like this. Now, he's a high-level quarterback. He had a great regular season. But there's a lot of guys where, they put up the numbers. They're really good in the regular season. They're good in the regular season, but they get in the playoffs, and for whatever reason, and it could be different reasons, but they don't rise to the occasion. So now for the Dallas Cowboys, and the people are going to focus on the quarterback. You guys are breaking down the receivers, the tight ends, the offensive scheme, and that's all valid. It's important. That stuff counts.
Defense,
and I think the Cowboys totally got outcoached, they got outmatched in those regards in terms of the X's and O's and the matchups and all that. LaFleur totally outcoached McCarthy. But you look at it, and I think the Dallas Cowboys now have a big problem. Because personally, I look at Dak Prescott, and I'm like, he's a very good quarterback.
Yeah, but my question
is, I have severe doubts, big doubts. I don't think he's a guy that's ever gonna lead a team to a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. You just see him in that game on Sunday, and you could just tell by the body language and the mannerisms, he's not that guy, and most guys aren't that guy. So, again, it's not just picking on him. I mean, Peyton Manning used to have his problems in the playoffs. He used to have, that deer in headlights look. He went on to win a couple Super Bowls, but he had a lot of problems in the postseason. He's one of the best of all time. So I look at Dak Prescott now, I'm like, this guy's not taking you to the promised land. So now you got a problem. But then it's a question of, okay, so you're going to go draft a quarterback. You're going to then
if you
play that out. Dallas is a win-now team.
You draft a quarterback with that. Where this is all getting away from the fact they're paying Dak $60 million to not win a Super Bowl or not lead
so
the
then it's
team
like,
far in the
what
playoffs.
do you do now?
Yeah.
Do you have to stick it out and say, you know what, you can't give up on him. What I'm saying is going too far. He can lead a team to the Super Bowl if you have the right pieces around him. You got to change the personnel, change the head coach. They're keeping the head coach. Says something like, I don't look at McCarthy as a very good coach. He has one Super Bowl victory. He had Aaron Rodgers as quarterback.
Yeah.
And so he's a Super Bowl winning coach, but
he's 1-4.
He wore out his welcome in Green Bay. They fired him. Yeah. Now he's in Dallas. It's the same old problems for him. And now they're going to run it back with McCarthy and Prescott. It's your coach and your quarterback, and I don't think they have the right guys in either of those positions.
The quarterback is like if you draft the quarterback.
And also, they're not in a position this year to really draft a good quarterback either.
I think Dak's at that point where like you draft the quarterback, Dak's still going to be better, but he's still not going to lead you anywhere. Like Dak's a really good quarterback.
Like the quarterback needs to develop.
But
they got to
I
go.
think Dak's still going to be superior to that quarterback. Because he's just a very good NFL quarterback, but he just won't lead you to the promised land. So it's like you get stuck in that situation.
The Cowboys could possibly take a leaf out of the Packers book in what they did with like Love. I mean, and with the Packers do this with every quarterback they get. They had Rodgers. They let Love sit for a year behind or 2 years behind Rodgers.
So
and
draft someone, let him. Yeah. I mean, let him develop for a couple of years.
Unlike Rodgers, Prescott's never going to lead the Cowboys to like deep into the playoffs.
So does Dallas have to draft a quarterback?
But do you think Mike McCarthy can do that?
What? Yeah. Trey Lance couldn't succeed in Kyle Shanahan's system. What do you think he's going to succeed in Mike McCarthy's system?
Okay, so the Cowboys.
He didn't get the chance, though. I don't think he got a fair chance.
No, he had plenty of weapons.
But no, I mean the chance to at least play on the field. Like it went so. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't think he's really.
Different talk
he's
for a
a bad
day
quarterback.
about Purdy and sticking with him.
But how about
that Purdy in the 49ers?
Let's hold on them. We'll get to them. How about Dallas's defense?
No, I mean, people are talking
how
about
great their defense is. What was that on Sunday?
Yeah, people are talking about hiring Dan Quinn as a head coach. Like,
oh, please with him.
Wait.
He's the same head coach that blew a 28-3 lead against the Patriots.
I mean, I'm not saying
you want that guy as your head coach? Come on.
I'm saying, like, how do you watch that game and say, "Oh, I want Dan Quinn to be my next head coach"? Like, where's the reasoning behind that?
Why?
This is. Go ahead.
Like Mike Kafka is getting head coaching interviews. Like what? I know it's showing the Giants, but like, what's the point? Like, thank you, take him. I don't care. But the thing is, it's like why? Like, why would you go out and try to like you see it right in front of you? Like you see it right in front of you.
Yeah, I never liked the whole notion of like hiring a coordinator to be the next head coach of your team. Like if they fired McCarthy and hired Quinn, I don't like that move because you've already seen what he could do. I know it's a different position.
Well, and he's been part of the problem.
Yeah,
he's been there.
I mean, that
it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, I mean,
he has been a head coach before.
He's led a team to the
and maybe
Super
this
Bowl.
is unfair to him. He blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl.
I
don't want to hire.
I don't either.
After that, I don't want to hire the guy. I'm just like I can't do that.
That's the goal of hiring a coach: lead us to the Super Bowl and win us the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but even against Tom Brady, like you blew a 28-3 lead, and it was 28-3 with like 5 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Yeah.
I just I'm not.
It doesn't matter.
I'm not going
and that
there.
was a team. That was a Falcons team with talent galore. So I don't know if I'm gonna like maybe attribute that success to Dan Quinn more than just he was just an acceptable leader. But I don't know. The Cowboys are in a tough spot here. I don't see a lot unless they really. I've always thought unless like there's some type of culture change. I mean, somebody come with Dak leaving and a new new energy coming in. I don't see this changing for a while, to be honest.
So let's go to the Packers. What went so right for them? Why did they have such success? Mr. Luciano said it's always the answer, right? Quarterback. Yep.
I mean,
so tell us about Jordan Love.
Love's clearly a really talented player. I mean, he sat behind Rodgers. He clearly learned behind him, even though I said their relationship wasn't that great. He clearly learned something.
But you still soak up something.
Yeah. He soaks up a ton of talent from one of the best ever. And I mean, he's clearly he's poised out there. Like he doesn't get distracted or like discouraged easily. Like you see, he puts the ball. Like you see the pressure. Like I remember DeMarcus Lawrence getting pressure on him. He throws that ball downfield to Romeo Doubs, 20 yards downfield, completes the first down on 2nd and 15. I was like, that's a really poised play for a first-year starting quarterback. I mean, that's something you don't really see often.
As I said, but another pick Bart is as I said right in the start of this, you have nothing to lose. You go out there with nothing to lose.
I don't agree with that.
What?
You never have.
There's always something to lose.
I get what you're saying. You never have nothing to lose.
Super Bowl.
You have a playoff game to lose.
Yeah. Especially for someone who's trying to prove that they can be the franchise quarterback for this team. And I mean, I attribute a lot of the success to Matt LaFleur's game planning as well as Aaron Jones getting back involved with this offense because you saw he had 3 straight 100-yard rushing games before this. And before that, the Packers were in a little bit of a rut. But I always say, whenever you could run a football, you're always going to have more success. It opens up other opportunities.
Oh, so running the football still matters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I'm glad you brought up
they
about.
had less pressure on them. I think they had less pressure.
I mean, even when they got
Cowboys.
pressure, Love was able.
Yeah,
to
there's less
No,
pressure,
I mean,
but
less pressure, like not
yeah.
actual
Oh, okay.
football. But, like,
Yeah.
less pressure than the Cowboys. Like Cowboys really had to win this game. Like
Yeah.
the Packers.
Yeah.
Hey,
true.
if they lost,
I get what you're
no one
saying.
would bat an eye.
but if
Everyone expected them.
But
to
if
lose,
they
so.
lose the game, you're looking at them differently. And then, so if they lose, you say they play poorly
now
last Sunday,
Yeah.
and they're out in the first round. Then there's questions going into the next year. It's like, well, they had a nice season, but they were up and down. They didn't show anything in the playoffs. Is Jordan Love the answer? Now you have that game.
you can
and
always say that
and
like,
I
at
think
the end of the season you picked it up and
Yeah.
and maybe when you play like we come in as like the Cowboys are a really good defense. Well, hindsight is today, but like. They don't have a good defense. I mean, they have a pretty good defense. So, like, you walk into that, you're playing like a top sort of defense. You lose, so you're like, hey, like we can go out next year.
Yeah, but they don't. If they don't
Personally,
win, if
now
they don't
I
win
think-
last
now,
week,
what I'm saying is now that they won this week, there's no pressure on them this week.
I
going,
disagree with
going
that.
against San
All the
Francisco.
pressure in the world.
There's always pressure.
Because they already proven that they could win a playoff game against like Jack said, a top defense in the
Yeah,
league.
look
but
at
like
the-
if they lose to probably the best, maybe the best or second best team in the NFL, I don't see it like.
Yeah, but if they could play like they did last week, why can't they win this week?
No, they
Yeah,
can. I'm
absolutely
not
they
saying
can.
they can't.
They
definitely
absolutely can.
Yeah, they're
Well, but then the game,
hotter
but then
team.
the game matters. But then there is pressure. Like there's, it's an NFL playoff game. There's
always
al-
pressure,
You could
but-
say there's more pressure on San Francisco.
that's
I
what I
agree
get,
with that.
yeah.
But there's pressure on the Packers. Like say the Packers go and lose 40-0 this weekend. I don't think they are. But if they do, there's like okay, maybe the game against Dallas was an outlier. Like the games. They always matter. There's always pressure. There's always stakes. Because, again, if the Packers go out last week, said they don't play well, you're going to the offseason with tons of questions. Now you're saying, wow, like, look what they could do in the playoffs. Look what Jordan Love could do. Look what this whole team could do. Look at, LaFleur and his coaching. And now you go into a game, and now you have another opportunity. If you lose last week, then you don't have this opportunity against San Francisco. So there was the stakes, you could argue, were higher for Dallas and more pressure on them. But there were stakes for Green Bay. There was pressure on Green Bay, and there's pressure and there's stakes for Green Bay this week. Like they have to now go out there and play a competitive game against San Francisco.
I mean,
that's hard.
I think I could see multiple ways that the Packers win this game. I know we'll get to it later, but San Francisco coming off a bye, like they might be a little bit. I know they would be rested and they'll get back some guys from injury, but the Packers are on a roll right now, and it's tough to face a team like that coming off not seeing live NFL action for a couple of weeks.
Let's move on to the other games because our original plan. We're not going to have In the Vault tomorrow. We're going to. We're not going to have it now. So we're going to condense everything in the NFL. So last weekend, this upcoming week, we do it all today.
Yeah,
all right. So we want to do the 6 wildcard games, recap them, and then we're going to preview the 4 divisional games. So Chiefs, Dolphins.
Oh, I'm telling you, we
boy.
gotta.
I mean-
come on, the Chiefs. I told you this before. It don't matter who Patrick Mahomes. I know I'm being this type of guy, but it don't matter who Patrick Mahomes is. That good of a generational talent that it doesn't matter. You have Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends we've ever seen. You got. I mean, a wide receiver core we haven't seen the playoffs. They could step up. Rasheed Rice.
No.
Like
I'll let you finish, but
you win. Like
I mean-
Patrick Mahomes is that type of player that you look at and you're like.
Yeah.
Like, we always talk about these quarterbacks who can do it. Like, do it. Like, we always look at, like, as Giants would say, can Daniel Jones do it? But we look at Patrick Mahomes, the guy who could just do it. Like,
Aren't we giving a bit too much credit for winning a playoff
absolutely.
game?
I mean,
in
you wanna-
negative,
you wanna
it
talk-
was 7 degrees against
is
the
what I was
Miami
gonna say.
Dolphins.
this is the perfect matchup for them. You're in
I-
negative how many degrees?
Warm weather team.
You're playing a team from Miami. This is a perfect matchup for them, and it showed.
Yeah,
Because
did-
Tua couldn't do anything.
No.
Dolphins couldn't do anything.
I mean, the one point I have about this, I wasn't obviously very happy, but I mean, you're gonna have to pay Tua $23.14 million this year. Then his contract is up. Do you guys look at Tua and say, "Oh, this is a guy I want to pay $60 million to"?
No.
Do you look at like Dak Prescott, $59 million?
No.
Do you see Tua on the same footing as him?
Absolutely not.
No. I mean, that the Dolphins have a serious issue here, especially with Tua's agent, who's one of like he's like the agent for most high-level NFL quarterbacks, and he's going to demand a massive contract for the NFL passing yards leader. And I don't really see it. I don't really see it as being something that would be in the Dolphins' best interest.
To Jack's point about Mahomes, I know he's great. He's generational talent, but that was a perfect matchup for them. I need to see another week of that. If he can still put
Yeah,
up
if he
with
could- against the
those
Bills, yeah.
terrible weapons versus a team like the Bills, then maybe there's a chance.
I have a different opinion than you guys because I just can't count them out. I just can't.
No, I
just
agree with
can't
that.
count 'em out.
You can't count them out, but I don't give them much credit at all for. Like I think they.
I mean, they didn't.
They
play,
held
They
serve.
didn't play well. They didn't play overly well. It's more just about how inept the Dolphins' offense was. I mean, they didn't really. Mahomes didn't play. What did he have? Like 230. He did enough to win in those conditions. But I'm not. I agree with Jack. You can't count them out. But I'm not overly impressed with.
They
Mahomes'
held serve.
performance. Yeah.
It's like they're supposed to win.
I just have a different opinion than you guys. That's fine.
You're welcome to have it different. That's what this is all about.
I just think that there's nothing
No, I
I can
agree with
say.
you.
But the
Tell us we're wrong.
You
Tell us.
can never count out Mahomes.
Tell us. Mahomes had
but
2
I
Super
love-
Bowl rings, 3 appearances. What are you guys talking about?
I'd
Give
love
it to
to
us.
see it against Josh Allen and the Bills this week. Then I'll maybe
Exactly.
give my opinion.
See it this week
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
Josh Allen and the Bills, the
Yeah.
hottest team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Then you got
See it in a road playoff game for the first time for them. Which
that
to their
I need to see too.
to their credit, they've been home for every game
Yeah.
because
I'd like to see how that.
they're
that's a
usually the
good
number
point.
1 seed or number 2 seed. So
That's a
that's
good
to their
point.
credit. But they're actually going on the road for the first
I'd
time.
like to see how that plays
There's
out.
still a lot of questions, but I felt like a lot of people counted out the Chiefs. And it's like you can't
I
count
agree.
them out. Like you just can't.
I mean,
know.
people this year has been more than ever saying, "Oh, this is not the Chiefs' year. They're not the same team." I mean,
They got
I
a
agree.
nice
They're not the
first-round
same team,
matchup,
but
so it's
yeah.
almost,
Perfect.
I don't actually I do.
Couldn't ask for a better first round matchup.
Actually, I do mean to insult the Miami
Yeah.
Dolphins and their fans.
Yeah.
You know I do as a bitter Jets fan. But that was basically like a bye.
Yeah,
It was pretty much a
Yeah,
bye.
I
mean,
think the Bills would obviously have given them a better matchup,
course.
even
I
first
think the
round.
Bills could have beaten them.
I think the Pittsburgh Steelers would have given them a better game than the
Probably,
Dolphins did
yeah.
in the first
Yes,
round.
absolutely.
I'd even have to
but
agree
again,
with that.
but again, you can
I
win.
think the Steelers they could have beaten them.
But again,
We'll
you
get
win.
to that.
I don't know if they would have, but they could. Like
We
to
could
me,
have beaten the Bills
to
too,
me,
but, you know,
Miami
we don't know how to hold on to the
had
ball.
no chance. No chance.
No, but you look at this. You got to win games different ways. That's what the Super Bowl teams do. You got to win games different ways, and that's what
Yeah,
the Miami.
he's right.
We had this expectation about the Miami Dolphins. You got to win games different ways. I always say this about basketball. You got to win
No,
games
they have
different
no-
ways.
McDaniel,
Like you have to.
they have
Like,
no adjustability in their game plan. It's just the same week after week. It's really just because Tua is one faceted. Like that's the only way
They
he
were
could
fish
play.
out of water.
That's the only way he could play.
You got to have a good
His-
running game for Colts.
He's not a mobile quarterback. There's no adjustability in their game plan. They have to throw. They have to do the same thing every week. They have to run the ball effectively and make short passes and depend on yards after the catch.
Tyreek Hill was
That's really all that you. That
Tyreek
the
Hill.
Dolphins
Sorry,
get. Yeah.
Tyreek Hill was beaten up. Jalen Waddle was out of the game pretty
Yeah.
much because
Yep.
he just didn't get any receptions.
They didn't.
They couldn't run the football.
No.
It was just bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
No, it
Any
was
good
awful.
look that Tua got, he threw an interception.
Yeah. I mean.
I wouldn't have a lefty quarterback, but that's another thing. Let's
Yeah.
move forward.
Don't talk about lefties. You know,
Penix.
Browns and Texans. So
I'm a
Jacobs-
just walk away here. like
Jacob's
Mike
Super Bowl
Tomlin.
champion is out. Jacob's Super Bowl is demolished. I had the Rams going, so they're out. But my Super Bowl champion still at the Bills. We shall see. But Browns, Texans. Jacob, kick us off and tell us how the Texans just absolutely destroyed
Man,
Cleveland.
see, I did pick the Browns to win the Super Bowl. I'll just say that. Being a Steelers fan, I obviously love seeing this, but the Texans, man, this is a team that could go into Baltimore this week and cause some issues for the Ravens. We'll get to that. But they played almost a flawless game. I mean, C.J. Stroud continued to do what he has been doing all season, showing why he's the Rookie of the Year. And it's just incredible. The guys that he's working with, he lost Tank Dell.
Yeah.
He lost all these weapons, and he's still making it work.
Yep.
And that defense is flying around all over the place. You got the turnovers from
Yep.
Flacco that you needed.
Yeah.
And
That was the one thing they probably were looking for out of Flacco because, that's the one thing he does. He throws for 300 yards and he turns the ball over 2 to 3 times.
But I
So-
think it all goes back to Stroud.
Yeah.
That Browns defense, most of us said was the best in the NFL, or one of the best in the NFL.
Although I will
And
say,
he picked it apart.
yeah, and also the Browns' defense was significantly worse on the road than they were at home. But, I mean, still, it's impressive for Stroud to go out there with the weapons he was lacking and put up a 45-point performance on, either way you look at it, top 5 defense.
You got to win games different ways. I said it again.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to win games on the road. You got to win games at home. I mean, you didn't put yourself in a position to go at home and do the same things. You got to win games on the road. You can't just you put yourself in a position to play games on the road. Look at your things on the road. Look at your accolades on the road. I mean, look at your stats on the road. Well, you didn't have a good position because you put yourself on the road. That's your fault. Because
That's exactly how I felt about the Dolphins. I mean, they lost that game to the Titans, then they get themselves in the fight for the division, lose to the Bills, and then they have to go to Kansas
Why are
City
the Browns worse
playoff
on
game.
the road
I think it's
defensively. Like they say that defense is supposed to travel, but why is their defense worse on the road?
I think they allowed 17 points a game at home and 30 on the road. It's
insane.
Like
that dog pound thing. I don't. There's really no explanation.
I don't think there's really. Honestly.
Hey, shout out to the fans. I mean,
I don't think there's an explanation for it. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't
either.
The fans
can't. I mean,
what's the dog pound really done historically?
The dog pound is terrible.
I mean, you look back
historically, the dog pound sits at the bottom of the AFC North every year,
and
will continue to sit there with Deshaun Watson as their quarterback if that's the decision that they make. There's a lot to go into the future of the Browns. We'll get into that in the offseason. But this is a bad performance. It's the most Browns performance you'll ever see. This is exactly what you should expect from a Browns team. I was not one of those people. I stood up here and said that defense was going to win them the Super Bowl.
It was just a Flacco insanity run that kind of changed the perception of it. But this was really the same Browns team that we saw year after year.
I mean, DeMeco Ryans had that team ready to go. Okay,
Coach of the year.
Absolutely, Coach of the year.
I mean,
because
you could argue Dan Campbell, but I think the Lions have just significantly more talent. So I think you go with.
He won with that young team, right? That defense was ready to go the other day. They pick six Flacco twice, right?
Yeah. On back-to-back drives.
Exactly. That was it right there. As soon as that second one happened, game over.
Yeah.
He had that team ready to go. He's the coach of the year. C.J. Stroud's the rookie of the year. And I still stand by that this team could go into Baltimore and win a football game next week.
I know. Do you guys, I know it's kind of a little off topic, but do you guys put Stroud in the top 5 MVP conversation?
If he didn't get hurt,
yeah,
I would.
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
If he continued, he could have been the MVP.
Yeah.
But he was out for 3 or 4 games?
Yeah. And then he had that Jets performance, which was pretty bad, but we don't need to talk about that.
Let's go Rams-Lions. Really good game.
What did I tell you?
24-23 Detroit.
I trust Dan Campbell. I'm a Dan Campbell
This is one of the best
fan.
games I watched in recent memory.
I'm a Dan Campbell type guy. You know, man. I think that you didn't give him the respect you did. I was listening. You didn't give him the respect that he deserved. He's a very good football coach, and he showed it today. I know he has some aggressiveness issues, but again, that's showing that
he has faith in his guys.
Yeah, that you have
I could counter that. Detroit was up big at halftime.
21-10.
Okay,
and then it was 21-17, but they were up 21-10 right before.
Well, they were up big in the first half, and then the Rams came back, finishes 24-23. Yeah. Again, I'm no guru when it comes to X's and O's, but when that happens, the team that's trailing, the coach makes adjustments. So I think you can make an argument that the better coach is on the other sideline. Didn't win.
I very much agree with that.
But Sean McVay made the adjustments.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell didn't, and the Rams they lost the game, but they came close to pulling that game off. I wouldn't give Dan Campbell too much credit yet.
I think McVay's a better coach, as you said, but I just think that it wouldn't. You just thought it would take them to a different level. Yes, they adjusted, but it didn't win them the game. I thought you were thinking.
I don't like Dan Campbell's whole shtick. Like I think McVay.
I
think he's a mature, experienced, terrific football coach. I like the way he approaches things. I think Dan Campbell's a bit full of himself, and I just think he. See coaches like that. See, we're gonna get to Sirianni.
Sure.
Like when let me make this point. When you just demonstrate hubris and arrogance, I think it eventually is going to come back to get you. Where Sean McVay, to me, like he's a hard-nosed, tough football coach. He's an X's and O's genius. Like to me, he's the whole package of a football coach. I'm not saying Dan Campbell's not good. I just don't like his whole shtick. He's not exactly like Sirianni, but those two guys, like to me, they're a little bit full of themselves, and I think when you get a little bit too full of yourself and you don't stay grounded, it's going to come back to get you. Because I think your focus is kind of on things. Your focus is on things that aren't the most important. So I could be wrong about Campbell, but he strikes me as that type of coach. A little bit too much bravado and not enough of just laser focus on the football. Where Sean McVay, to me, like that guy is a coach's coach.
I think Campbell and Sirianni are different because
they are.
They bought into Dan Campbell's kind of mantra. They bought in. The team bought into it. It wasn't he tried to build a culture in Detroit. Detroit wasn't good before he came. Detroit wasn't anything. He tried to build a actual identity on a team, which I respect.
It started with Brad Holmes. It started with that draft that they had with Gibbs, Laporta. I mean, it started with that golf trade, really. I mean, you want to look at this game in the X's and O's. Stafford played an incredible game if you watched him. He played wonderful. I mean, I know we just were talking about how good of a coach McVay was, but I think you can pin a little bit of this loss on him for that punt decision to go for it, or that punt decision to punt it instead of go for it, or do something different because that ends taking those timeouts in the early second half, which like kind of burned their chances of coming back in those late stages because the Lions, all they had to do was get a first down and they won the game. So Stafford played great, the Rams played great, but their defense just didn't do like the beginning stage of the game really set up the Lions to not have to do much really to win this in the second half. I think they only scored 3 points in the second half.
I mean, the Lions were flying all over the place in the first half, and that really just that killed it.
Yep.
Like Mr. Arenio said, McVay made the adjustments, but it just wasn't enough to
overcome that slow start.
Yeah, to overcome the slow start. Well, it was what 20-10, right?
Yeah, 21-10.
21-10. So I mean,
it was
they weren't able to come back
too. It was 14. I mean, the Lions kind of almost let this escape like out of their grasp, but they just did. They flew out of the gate with that touchdown on the opening drive, and
I look at this game and I say, from the Rams' perspective, obviously they're really disappointing. I mean, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I think they had a chance to go on a run. They didn't, but I look at them as like anytime you lose a playoff game, obviously you're really disappointed. So you lose. It is what it is. Yeah. But to me, the Rams, they just got bested. It happens. Like you're gonna lose games. They weren't supposed to be good this year, according to the experts. They had a down season last year. You know, they went all in to get their Super Bowl title a couple years ago. But I look at them, it's like, okay, you lost the game, you're disappointed, but they have a program. They have a solid organization. They have a veteran quarterback, an older quarterback now, but they have a quarterback that's now a Super Bowl champion. They have a great coach. They have a great system. So they'll be back. Like, okay, disappointing, we lost, but they're gonna be right back. Where we talk about the Cowboys, I mean, there's so much uncertainty. So like, I just look at the Rams as like sometimes you just get bested, and that was a really good football game. And the Lions, Jack, it's not that I'm not giving them credit. You're kind of covering that part of it. I'm just looking at them and saying, okay, I want to see more. You know, they're building something, but I want to see more. I don't see yet that they have a program, they have a system, they have an organization like the Rams do. Like, if the Lions go and lose to the Bucs this weekend,
how would you?
Well, then it's like, you know, okay, good season, but you really left a big opportunity on the table. Like, you talk about pressure.
Yeah,
the pressure is on the Lions to win this weekend. You're in your dome, your home. You're against an okay Bucs team, maybe slightly above average Buck team. Like, you got to win that game.
I will say this. I feel just from being a football fan, this game against the Bucs is going to be much easier than the one they played against the Rams. That's just my opinion, because you have an experienced quarterback in Stafford who's been in those moments. The pressure
I think Baker's good.
The pressure was not on Stafford. The pressure was not on Stafford in that game. He's won a Super Bowl already. I mean, I know he was going back to where he used to play, but the pressure was on Goff, really. And I mean,
but how about the dynamic of Bucs Lions? And we'll get to the preview. Let's save it. Let's go to we got 2 more games. Yeah. We got to talk to the Steelers. I know we got a little. We're gonna have some.
One thing I want to say about Baker before you said
there's no pressure.
Baker's
on Baker.
good. No. Hey. Baker is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL.
Agree, yeah.
And I think the Browns made a huge mistake letting that go, because I don't think they're going anywhere with Deshaun Watson.
Chris Broussard on Fox Sports 1 is a show, afternoon show. Goes on at 3:00 after the herd. What's it called? I forget what it's called. He's with Nick. Was it Nick Wright? Yeah. Got the long hair.
Sports.
I mean, Chris Broussard. He's a long time sports reporter.
Line?
So he's from Cleveland. He goes, I'm from Cleveland. And they were talking about the Bucs-Eagles game. He goes, man, the Browns should not have let Baker go. But we'll come back to Baker when we go to Bucs-Lions. So we'll go to Bucs now. So we keep talking about. We'll do Steelers-Bills last for the wild card weekend. All right. So let's continue with Baker then. We have Eagles-Bucs. A lot to talk about the Eagles. Why don't we start with the Bucs and just keep going with Baker and what they did well to beat them 32-9 on Monday night.
Baker played perfectly the other night. 337 passing yards.
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
The only other quarterback to do that in Bucs history was Tom Brady.
Yep.
In a playoff game.
He outplayed the quarterback on the other side, who's paid
much better.
Much more money.
Much
Baker
better.
earned his bag this offseason, okay?
Yeah.
Baker's going to get some money. All right?
Yeah.
I love it.
In a league where
just like you earned your bag for live stream?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your bag of candy?
Even when there's not this league where there's like lacking dependable quarterbacks, I think Baker will get his money this offseason.
Look, I was never a Baker fan. You know, after he beat us in 2020, beat the Steelers in 2020, 11-0 start. We all know what happened. But ever since he's moved on, it's just like, you got to love this guy.
Yeah, he's a very likable guy.
He goes to the Rams. He does what he did there last season. Almost leads them to – no, actually, that's not what happened. Had a couple good games, though.
Yeah.
and I believe he got hurt.
Yeah,
and then this year, what he does with the Bucks, I mean, he had a great season this year, probably the best in his career.
This was a team that started out the year in their first 8 games 3-5, and now he led them to the divisional round of the playoffs and beating a team
helps the division they're in, but they won the division, and then they destroyed the Eagles on Monday night.
I think this win though is more on the Eagles than it is on the Bucks.
The Eagles secondary and their defense played like a high school team out there.
Look,
they were completely.
They got exposed.
I mean, Baker. I'm not.
Baker was
incredible. Away from his,
that defense was incredible.
Yeah,
but it's more on the Eagles.
The Eagles just. I mean, their fall from grace is definitely something. It's
happened?
the biggest storyline.
It needs to be studied by scientists. You were 10-1. What
I mean, that's
changed?
San Francisco.
You can't beat anybody.
San Francisco came in there.
You know, the problem is it's not. I don't think it's a scientific answer.
Yeah.
I don't think the metrics and the analytics are gonna tell you why the Eagles.
No, they're not.
It's
about personality. It's culture. It's the locker.
You couldn't beat anybody. And on Christmas Day, you should not have beat the Giants. So you almost lost out 8 games in a row.
If the Giants started Tyrod Taylor that day.
Yeah, I agree.
Because as much as I love the Tommy DeVito story, Tyrod Taylor is a much better quarterback. If Tyrod Taylor started on that game. It was on Christmas.
Yep.
The Giants, good chance they win a game.
I think they would. I think there's a good chance they do.
Everything went down the same way it did. They would have won that football game.
I mean, the 49ers came in. Everyone was favoring. I remember we talked about it on the show. The Eagles. The Eagles. They're gonna come in. They're gonna beat the 49ers. The 49ers come in. They knock the life out of this team. And since then, they haven't been anywhere near close to the same team. I mean, that team. I think that was where the turning point for the Eagles was. They had just beaten some tough teams. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. And people were saying, "Oh, this might be their year to win the Super Bowl." And then the 49ers come in and just ruin that dream right away. And since then, they've been. I mean, we saw.
Jack raised his hand like he's in class.
Yeah.
Jack, go ahead.
This is what separates the average coach from a great coach. You get a week after you lose a lot of games. You get a week to get ready,
prepare.
to get your team ready to play on the road in Bucks land. You get ready. You get have a week, and you just come out like that. Like you have a whole week to put to all.
How long did they have?
A week.
Did you guys see?
But that's the thing. They had a week, and I fully expected this to happen.
Yeah.
This is what I thought was going to happen.
Because they have a bad coach.
You thought
because they can't be. I didn't know it was going to be 32-9, but I
thought
fully
they'd
expected
lose.
them to get completely outplayed.
Did you guys see
Because
that
they have a
video
bad
of?
coach.
You're Nick Sirianni, right? You took your team to the Super Bowl last year, and now this year you get outcoached by Todd Bowles.
Did you see that? Do you see that video of the fan dumping popcorn on Nick Sirianni as he was walking into the tunnel after the game?
There were a lot of Eagles fans there.
Yeah, there was.
You know what? Because he ran the tunnel on the Chiefs.
Yeah. That's
I don't.
Nick Sirianni, I think he's going to keep his job.
Oh,
I'm not saying he should keep his job.
They're bringing him back.
He's bringing him back. Okay. So
I like that. I hate that worse than McCarthy.
I want to.
Are we going to talk coaching today?
I want to contrast.
Kind of did.
Let me say this, and then we'll go to Steelers Bills.
That was a coach.
I want to contrast a quarterback and a coach. Okay. Baker Mayfield, I think, has matured. He came in, cocky guy, had all the success at Oklahoma, comes in. I don't think he had.
He's one of the best college quarterbacks ever.
I don't think he had a professional mentality. It didn't work out for him early in his career. He goes to Tampa Bay, and fresh starts work. Sometimes you have to go on to a new place, right? And then things turn around, you get going, your career takes off, whatever it may be. So Baker Mayfield, I think, has grown up. I think he's matured. You could see his demeanor, and then he's got the physical gifts, he's got the talent, and it's translating on the football field. He's not a great quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. So this guy has turned his career around. He's got on the right path, and it's a great story. Now I know it's a coach, but Nick Sirianni.
Hurt's a professional guy.
Nick Sirianni has to change. He's got to use this now as a humbling thing. Okay, because he came in with all this, I love the word bravado. Comes in, he's talking a big game. He had that first press conference.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
And just
I rewatched that after the game.
We're gonna learn how to work easier and do better.
So he's at a what's the term we're looking? He's looking at
rock bottom.
He's at a decision point.
Yeah.
He's at a decision point in his career. He's at a crossroads. Better. He's at a crossroads in his career where he's fortunate. He should look at this. I'm grateful that I still have my job because I could easily be fired after this epic, historic collapse.
Failure.
I got to make changes. And I think, you got to make X's and O's changes, always that stuff. But Sirianni has to become a professional, and he has to mature himself. So Baker Mayfield, even though he's a quarterback, okay, it's the same principle. He learned, he developed, he changed his mindset, he changed his approach to things. He humbled himself, and it helped him on the field, right? Because he already had the ability, the talent to play quarterback. Now he's a good NFL quarterback. Now he's in the divisional playoffs. So Nick Sirianni, there's ability there as a coach. He's shown that. He almost won a Super Bowl last year, 3 points away. All right, so he could right this ship, but he's got to make big changes to the way he approaches things and to the mentality that he has.
Jalen Hurts, I think he's a professional guy, but the way Nick Sirianni is so different than Jalen Hurts, it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts he's a private guy.
That's a private guy, but then you have this guy who's just going crazy in the locker room. Like,
that's why
it's a disconnect. It's a disconnect.
That's a great
There's
point.
a disconnect in that locker room.
That's a great
There's something going on.
From the quarterback to the head coach, you can easily see it.
That's
from the quarterback
probably
to the
it.
head coach. We're not in the locker room, of course, but
That's
the
a great
quarterback
point.
to the head coach. I think that's the easiest way you can look at it.
Hurts,
Quarterback is such a different person than head coach.
Sirianni's got to at least be able to adapt his mentality, like the way he acts to Hurts, because, I mean, if he's not going to adapt it to the whole team, he's got to adapt it to the leader. I think he should adapt it to the whole team, but if he's not, like you said, crossroads, I don't know if he's comfortable doing that. But in order for him to keep his job, he's got to make some drastic changes.
I think he's got to humble himself. He came in, and it's like, I'm going to come in. I'm the man. I'm a football wizard. You know, I'm this young hotshot coach. And I think, see, this is why McVay impresses me so much. He's how old is McVay now?
I think he's like 40.
Is he? He's around 40.
He's high 30s.
So think about this guy. I'm 39.
Yeah, he's around your age.
This guy started as an NFL head coach who was like 32, 33. Like, that is young. That is young to be leading an NFL team in any big-time, high-stakes leadership position. Like, that's young. But this guy comes right in, and from the get-go, and he had learning to do, right? He lost a Super Bowl to the Patriots, and I'm sure he learned a lot. Then they go win a Super Bowl. The guy has the maturity. He has the smarts. He has the wisdom. Like, he's wise beyond his years. And just his demeanor, like, you don't need to be a Belichick-type guy that, like, plays these games with the media, and then, Belichick on the sideline. Like, he'll show some emotion, but his stoic approach. Where McVay will convey emotion, fist pump here. But to me, it's like it's genuine and it's organic. He's not a cheerleader on the sideline. It's like he'll get pumped up in spots. They make a big play. He'll get annoyed at things. Right?
He's a genuine head coach.
Everything's genuine.
Yeah.
We're Robert Saleh to bring him up.
Yeah.
Like, seems like a very good guy. Yeah. Seems the kind of guy you want to hang out with. But I don't like the way. I don't like the way he is on the sideline.
His son played against my brother in a basketball game, and I met him.
I agree. I do not like the way he acts on the sideline.
I don't like his approach on the sideline, but a guy like Sirianni, what he does is even worse.
Yeah. Because Campbell. Campbell is, like we talked about. I don't want to go back to that, but he has at least he shows like genuine like support of it.
It's more. Sirianni shows genuine emotion, but he'll, remember some of the things he does where it's like what the players do, like the stuff I can't stand when they get these choreographs. I can't stand. You know why I can't stand that stuff? Because it's all pre-planned. I don't need you to be stoic. Like when it comes to baseball, I don't like the old time approach. Like, you can't show any emotion on the field. No, genuine emotion, like the Derek Jeter fist pump, Pedroia, Jonathan Papelbon. Like, you can think of, but like the guys who like genuinely express emotion in the moment when something goes right or when something goes wrong. Yeah. But all this choreographed stuff, like to me, Sirianni, like as a coach, he does that stuff. Yeah. That's not professional. It's not mature, and it's not a good.
I can't really.
It's not a good example for your players, and I think some people say we make a too big deal of that stuff. But look at how they collapsed.
Here, I think the thing with Sirianni is I think
it doesn't make sense because they have so much talent, and I mean they have an elite quarterback. They have so much talent on offense and defense. That's the only thing that really fits what makes sense for this to happen so poorly.
When he came in there, I think he tried to embrace Philly, right? He tried to embrace that Philly mindset, and that's exactly what he did. And when they were winning, it worked.
He went overboard.
Yeah, but the Philly mindset is not to.
He went overboard.
It's not to.
He went overboard.
Yeah, like because I'm sure the players liked that he tried to relate. He put in effort, but as they started to win, his ego obviously started to.
Once the collapse happened. look, the way Philly is, they're not going to accept. They're going to accept that when you're winning, but when you're losing, they're going to be all over you. That's exactly what's happening.
Can I
Which is why I'm surprised he didn't lose his
New York
job.
mindset. We look at the New York Knicks basketball coach, Tom Thibodeau. He does not act like anything like
I don't even
anybody you would want.
That's it.
But
I
he
love
wins
Thibodeau.
games. But he wins games,
I
so
love
it doesn't matter.
I don't
he
know
wins
if
games.
He's
it
a Van
doesn't matter.
Gundy disciple.
He wins games,
So are you.
matter.
I don't know if I can compare any. There's not a coach that I can think of right now that I can compare to the way Sirianni acts. And at least
He's
in
so
the NFL,
lucky to have his
at least
job.
in the NFL. Or I mean, not even no manager in the MLB, not a coach in the NBA that I could really think.
Remember
of.
that one thing he did last year? He's like he looked in the camera like,
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
like what are you doing? See, like
I
that's
remember
not Philly. Like Philly is wear your emotions on your sleeves, which he does. Philly likes that, but that other stuff again, that like choreographed, like celebratory kind of stuff, that cocky stuff, like that stuff is not gonna fly
But you
if
look,
you're not winning. And when you
When
have
you
an historic
collapse.
collapse,
Yeah.
people will be like, nah, I'm out.
Yep.
But you look at Campbell, and it's like
Campbell-
people buy in. Like the team is buying in. He's not going crazy like Sirianni
No,
did.
yeah.
But the team buys in. The whole entire team buys into what he wants to do.
He's genuine because when he loses or wins, that he acts the same. Sirianni is kind of the opposite of that.
No, Campbell's good. He's good. I think he could pipe down a bit,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
couldn't stand his decision to go for 2. But we already talked
Yeah.
about that. So we got one more wild card game. Then we're gonna go and preview
All
the
right.
divisional playoffs. So Jacob, do you want to take the lead?
Yeah.
You got your jacket on. Steelers Bills. Go ahead.
No questions about contracts. I'm not going to walk off like Mike Tomlin. But anyway, that was funny. I want to get to that. But look, what did I say in the last show before when we were previewing this game was protect the football, right? And
That's groundbreaking.
if they
George Pickens clearly wasn't listening to that.
we said that if there was any shot for the Steelers to win this football game without TJ Watt, it's by protecting the football like they've done all year, and that's how they've won games all year. And that's exactly
on a ground dominant team.
that is the
Team
complete opposite of what they
Yeah.
did. They came out throwing the ball.
Which is
Why? I don't know, because you've been running the football
Well,
like
yeah.
the best team in the NFL in the past 5
Matt
weeks.
Canada back.
And like
the ghost of Matt.
the last 5 weeks, they've been running the football like the best team in the NFL. You come out throwing the football, first couple drives, right? Not good, and then you get the fumble from Pickens. There's one turnover. Then you have the fumble from Freiermuth that I don't know how we got that football back.
Yeah.
Saying it grazed his helmet. I don't think so. And then you got the interception in the end zone, which is that's it right there.
Yeah.
The Mason Rudolph interception thrown in Deontay Johnson in the end zone. Terrible throw. Had the right idea, just awful throw. And that loses you the game right there because I was talking to Mr. Ziegler about it yesterday. I had a track meet, right? We're both big Steeler fan. We both agreed that with Josh Allen, you need to once you let him get into the game, it's over. You need to keep him out of the game. That's exactly what they did in that first half. He was obviously the Bills had the lead going into halftime, but Josh Allen was not fully in the game. That run where he fake slid and then ran 70 yards down the field, that got him in the game. Once he's in the game, there's no beating him. The Bills are 17-0 since he was drafted when he doesn't have a turnover.
Yeah. I mean, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers for him.
And
that
he
game.
did not turn the ball over once in that game. Steelers turned it over twice, really 3 times, but twice where it gave it back to the Bills. Bills scored on both those drives. Steelers lose by 2 possessions. That's the story of the game right there.
Yep. I don't really have. I mean, he kind of detailed everything right there.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Looking into the future, it's still
Do you
tough.
see anything changing?
No.
With this?
Oh,
No?
Mike Tomlin said
yeah.
they're going to hire coordinators from outside the building. That's the first time they've done that in 7 years. It's always been. It was Randy Fitchner. Then they went to Matt Canada, who was under him, and then they went to these 2 guys that were under Canada.
Yeah.
So, finally going to hire from outside the
different
building. He
perspective.
said they have to wait until after the playoffs to start, or after the Super Bowl to start interviewing people. So that means they're looking at guys that are on winning teams right now.
Yep.
And teams that are in the divisional round. So it's a change. That's a change. It's not the Pittsburgh Steelers way. And that's the thing. It's becoming the standard. All these Steelers fans talk about the standard. Everyone wants to get all over them for it. But it's the truth. The standard right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers is 10-7, 9-8, just sneaking into the playoffs and getting whooped in the first round by the 2 seed.
Can I ask you this question? Is the Steeler way hurting the Steelers?
Yes. That's
Yeah.
this-
Sometimes
the-
that-
Is that what Ben Roethlisberger said
Yeah, Ben.
a little while back.
Exactly. And you even have guys like Big Ben saying it, a guy that was your rock for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
And
If
if he's going against it, he's telling you that the Steeler way is dead, then you need to make a change.
Yep.
Because you've been 9-8, 10-7 around that area since 2020.
Well, how would you
Right.
define the Steeler way, the
And
traditional Steeler way, like in 5 points or less? Like
5 points or less. Okay, you're going out, you're getting the best players available.
Run the damn football.
Run the football.
defense.
Defense.
Yeah.
I'm good with those first 3.
Special teams, maybe. I don't know.
I would say then you got to go to doing winning at all costs, right? You're not trying to play in there and just get the 7 seed. You want to get the 1 seed. You
But
want to
that
be the
isn't
top.
that the problem where they're
What I think about the
You're not
Steelers,
trying-
I just say this one thing.
Go ahead.
One thing that I could add to that, the Steeler way, is finding a way to win no matter what the circumstances or cost
Yes.
is. That's really the Steeler way. That's exactly
Because I'm guilty of it too. Every time TJ Watt's out of a game, that's the excuse.
Yeah.
You can't become that reliant on a guy that when he's not playing,
If
you're
you're-
1-11 in your career his
Yeah.
career.
That's
You're
not a
1-11
playoff
when he
team.
doesn't
That's not
play.
a playoff
And the one team you beat was the winless, I think Browns team.
Yeah, huge.
That was the only team you ever beat without TJ Watt. It can't happen. It just can't be like that. And you can't become that reliant on a player. That's not the Steeler way.
That's not a playoff team either. That's
So
the team.
I can't give you
that's-
5, but I can give you 3. I can give you defense, running the football, and getting the best players available.
Yeah.
And they haven't signed a big name free agent in a long time. And you get all these guys like
so is the problem
build pieces.
So then is the problem the quarterback? Is it that simple? It's just they don't have a quarterback?
I mean, yeah, you got the lackluster. Since really 2020, you got the lackluster quarterback.
no,
play.
I mean,
yeah.
21, Ben played
Yeah.
better than you should ever expect from a
True,
guy that was
yeah.
37 years old.
If it's the
Yeah.
wrong coordinators, and why are they hiring the wrong coordinators? Like, get guys in there.
Because they're hiring from in their organization.
Because they're trying
and
to
the
do this continuity thing. They're trying to
Exactly.
do that continuity
So they're
thing.
too
If
loyal.
you-
They're too loyal to people within
Mike
the
Tomlin is
organization.
too loyal.
Continuity
Okay.
is good. I like that. but it gets
But
to a
it's been
point where
7
it's like,
years.
yeah, it gets to a point where it's like,
You haven't made an outside hire
That's
at coordinator in
that-
7 years.
I just thought of this. A big part of the Steeler way,
Is continuity.
and yeah, right. It's because they've had 3 head coaches in how many years,
60.
right? So that wasn't a problem, right? You had Chuck Noll, you had Bill Cowher, you had Mike Tomlin. It's worked out really well. They had 6 Super Bowl championships, and they've been to a couple others. Okay, so tons of success, more success than any other franchise. Okay, so that continuity's been good, but that doesn't mean that all aspects of the continuity are good. So I think it's the quarterback, but it's that. It's being too loyal to all the people within the organization because you look at the top, not the very top, because you're the owner, you got the Rooneys, you got your general manager, but with the head coach, it's like, okay, we've had Noel, we've had Cowher, we've had Tomlin, so we're good. But then Tomlin, the current head coach, who's a great head coach, he's just too loyal, and
Do you think
the organization's too loyal to the other people. Like Matt Canada probably should have been fired a lot earlier. Maybe he should have been the guy to begin with.
I don't know.
So that's the part of the Steeler way that's really
I don't know. I'm not a. Steelers
that's
fan.
really a problem.
What kills me is the start this season, you had Byron Leftwich calling your organization saying he wanted to be your coordinator, and you didn't take that. You stuck with Canada.
And then that
Byron
cost
Leftwich is
you
one of the most respected
half the
coordinators
season.
in the NFL.
Yeah.
He is calling you and saying he wants an opportunity, and you're just not
I
accepting
need
that.
a job.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Like a guy like that is calling you and saying that he needs a job.
Yeah. So
And you're not gonna give it.
when we've talked about the
Give
Steelers,
it an interview.
when we've talked about the Steelers in the past, I bring up Tomlin because I'm always prone to bring up the head coach because like okay, head coach, he's in charge of everything. He's the on-field leader, right? Again, you have the general manager, you have the owner, but we got to look at the head coach because we talk Matt Canada. It's Mike Tomlin who hired him, so Mike Tomlin has to ultimately be accountable. But now as we get the conversation today, it's like okay, Mike Tomlin has proved what he can do. He's a great head coach, but it doesn't mean he's without flaw. But we're really getting somewhere now, saying that like the Steelers are too loyal, and loyalty is an admirable
Yeah,
thing.
Fine.
until a
But
point.
their valuing of continuity, it's too much. They overvalue it. It's a good thing, but it can hurt you, and I think it has hurt their organization. And then I think really all this other stuff is coming from the outside, but the outside, the media, it's the Steeler way, the Steeler way. They haven't had a losing record in so long, and they make the playoffs. Well, let's go with the playoff thing. 17 years under Tomlin. I prepared here. 17 years under Tomlin. They've missed the playoffs 7 times. You listen to the media, it's because they generalize. It's like they'll say, oh, they're always in the playoffs. No, they're not. They missed it 7 out of 17. Like, that's a good amount of times to miss the playoffs. They haven't won a playoff game in 7 years. They've lost their last 5 playoff games. So, like, you look at the
huge margins, too.
Huge margins. And then look at their last 7 years, and you know a lot better all this. Like, how many of those 7 years have they genuinely been a Super Bowl contender? Like, this year they clearly weren't.
1?
So they had
2. 2017 when they lost to the Jags. When that was the peak of
they were a Super Bowl contender.
Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben. But I think 2020. Do you even give them that? You start 11-0. Do you give them Super Bowl caliber team?
2020.
Yeah, probably.
What did they do in the
Super Bowl
postseason?
caliber.
They got blown out by the Browns in the first game.
I mean,
they went down 20.
Well, I mean, they were.
It's like
48-37.
But they really did a nosedive. But
That's
I mean, they were Super Bowl contenders.
If you're 11-0, you're a Super Bowl caliber team.
But the last 3 years, it was 2021 was the year that they lost to the Chiefs in the first round. They got in the playoffs. Credit for making the playoffs, but like, they had no chance of beating the Chiefs. They got crushed. Last year, they made a run at the end, but they don't get in. Finished 9-8. So, like, to me, like, last year, it's like, okay, winning season, it's kind of like
it's not.
It's overrated. Like, it's like you really weren't a contender. And then this year, okay, they got in the playoffs, but they lost to Arizona and New England at home. Did a nice job the last 3 weeks.
If you win those 2 games, you're 12-5. You're 1 game behind the Ravens, and then you have a chance.
But then you could say they were fortunate the last week because the Ravens didn't play anybody.
But
then they get in the playoffs. They really had no chance of making a run.
And I look back. I also look at the draft. Right, the draft the last couple of years, you're getting away from the Steeler way. It's just that's the.
I mean, they had the Najee pick.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to get to it.
Yeah.
So it's getting away from the Steeler way, right?
Yeah.
What's the Steeler way? We all know run the football.
Yeah.
Right? You have maybe one receiver that you can throw to, but you run the football, right? Let's look at the draft defensively. They've done great. Guys like Highsmith, Joey Porter, Keanu Benton, they're pulling out of nowhere. Offensively, you've gone Najee Harris, which has turned out pretty well. Kenny Pickett, and George Pickens. Freiermuth was after Najee Harris. So that's a steal right there. Yeah. But I want to look at this, right? The Steeler way is to run the football. Go in and draft linemen, right? Yep. You drafted Broderick Jones this year. That's what turned the season around.
Well.
Once you put him in there, they started blocking and started running the football better. But you don't need these diva wide receivers that you've gotten 4 years in a row now.
I mean,
Deontay Johnson started off like a diva.
I think that's part of the Steelers,
complaining,
like Brown, Pickens, Johnson.
Complaining that he didn't get the ball, right?
Yeah.
You fix that issue. You draft Claypool in the second round. We all know what happened with that. Diva is not even good at football. At least Deontay Johnson's good at football. Yeah. And then you go in there and draft Pickens this year, who's a monster, but has issues because if he doesn't get the ball, he complains like a little baby. That's not Steeler players. That's not what you expect from a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah.
What you expect is Najee Harris, who even when he is struggling, he puts his head down, he runs the football, and does everything he can to get yards. That's what you expect from a Steeler.
These organizations that
try to do it their way.
These organizations that have had a lot of success, and the Steelers are a great organization, but I thought of a few other examples. The Patriots, the Patriot way. That's done with. Okay, so the Patriot way, that has hurt the Patriots
very much
since Brady's left, right? So Patriot way,
the Patriot way was just
it's
Brady.
done. I'll give you an example from baseball and across sports. St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
The Cardinal way.
Yeah.
Cardinals are a great franchise. Cardinals have not won a World Series since 2011. Last time they went to the World Series 2013, lost to the Red Sox. Like the Cardinals in recent years really haven't done much. But every year you hear, well, the Cardinal way, it's going to work out. Then they make the playoffs. They don't do anything. It's like you haven't done anything. And they had a bad year this year. Yeah. You haven't done anything in a while now. So I think
way doesn't really.
Your way when it's going well, it's like, hey, you could see the way, you could see the system, you could see the organization, you could see the program. But then when it's like Cardinal way, Steeler way, you rest on that, and then you get blind to what's actually going on right now. And it's not that the Steelers are terrible; they're not, but they're they're kind of mid. Like maybe they're above mid, or like above average, but like slightly.
Wait, why do people say mid like a bad thing? It's just middle. Like people think mid's like such a
because you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're not supposed to be mid.
I know. But like people like for the word mid, they think it's so bad. But it's like you're middle. You're middle of the pack.
Yeah, but for the Steelers, that's not good enough.
I saw a tweet from Dan Orlovsky the other day, right?
I teased.
If you are the Carolina Panthers, if you're just any terrible team.
If Carolina becomes mid next year, well, that's a lot of progress.
I mean, like a terrible organization. If you're the Panthers, if you're the Falcons, you would kill to be the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, being in the playoff race every year. That's what you want. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, the type of organization that they are, that is not the standard.
It's not the city.
That is not okay.
Yeah, they have higher standards than that.
But that's why I don't.
The city expects more.
Yeah.
That's why I don't get with the Steelers, and they're not the only example, but. That's why I don't get with the Steelers when we just keep hearing about the Steelers way. It's like, no, there's higher expectations for Pittsburgh, right? And you're communicating that. I don't know how all the different Steelers fans do, but I think it's even outside the Steelers. It's when I listen to the media and I hear them talk about the Steelers, like, I'm thinking, like, but they should be better. Like, and when I say mid could mean, like, it's not exactly in the middle. It could be slightly below average, slightly above average. Like, I think the Steelers right now they're right in that middle, like they're slightly above average. They were 10-7. It was an up and down year. Like you could stay stuck there. That's why sometimes it's good for teams to, maybe for the Patriots now, they've hit rock bottom. So now you can rebuild it, and you got higher draft picks. I mean, they got a lot of work to do. But sometimes when you're in that middle and you just stay stuck there, like you could stay there for a while
without,
and you're not a contender for the ultimate prize.
Nope.
You give people the illusion of contention, but you're not really a contender.
I think the only team that nails it is in basketball. Heat culture. I think that's the only team that actually nails it, like their way, because they like. I mean, you could search it up. They do some crazy stuff with their players. They make sure they're on like this body fat level. Like,
oh God.
Yeah, they like, yeah. But they also have one of the greatest coaches of all time. So it's like. And they're a pretty good type of team that always competes for the ultimate prize. Even though they don't look the best, they can always.
Maybe it should be like the Yankees and do like bring in the sleep specialists. What are they doing now? They're gonna let the guys sleep with the club. Hey, we're gonna be we're gonna sleep in these. I don't even know.
All right.
I think one more thing on the Steelers here. All that being said, I think it all comes down to the quarterback. It's been a common theme this whole show is talking about the quarterback. And that's what wins you football games. It's what wins you playoff games. It's what wins you championships. And a guy like Kenny Pickett / Mitch Trubisky / Mason Rudolph is not going to get that done. No. You look at that team. It's all ready to go, right? The line, this is the best offensive line they've had in years. Still not great, but it's the best offensive line they've had in years.
They have
Najee
two
Harris,
running backs.
I got a young
Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are both at peak parts of their career right now. For running backs, this is the time to win with Najee Harris. You've got George Pickens, who, if you can get his ego down, monster wide receiver. Deontay Johnson, whose ego you've gotten down, and
we could talk about egos all day, man.
I know.
Ego. Oh my God.
Guy like Freiermuth.
It's a thing throughout sports. It's a societal thing. I would argue
good
too,
blocking tight end. Good.
A guy like Freiermuth, who just took over after everything that happened with Heath Miller and how great he was, and he comes in there and he is just as great, and continues that tradition. I mean, and that defense, it's all there except for. It's not a young defense. It's the problem. It's getting older.
Some of the secondary guys.
Well, yeah, but it's starting to get older, and you've had this defense now for 6 years, and you have not done anything with it. This is the time. You need to go out there and you need to get a quarterback that's going to win you football games. I talked to Mr. Luciano about this the other day. He said, what do you think about Russell Wilson? You know, he's going to be gone. No, I don't think about it. I don't really like that idea. A guy like Justin Fields, if the Bears do decide to move on from him, I think that's a perfect fit.
I like that. Especially with the run.
You need someone who's not afraid to throw the football. That's why they had success with Mason Rudolph, but that was going to run out.
Justin Fields, I don't think that puts you over the hump. As good as Justin Fields' ceiling will be, I just don't think. Like, I think the way Steelers' way, we're going to go back to this. They're never going to leave it. But the way they do it is they're not going to bring in a young quarterback again. Like, I don't want to say you're going like nowhere from Kenny Pickett to Justin Fields. Yes, Justin Fields might be a little bit better, but like,
if
you got to get in a veteran quarterback in this place to work with Mike Tomlin.
Especially
Mike Tomlin is like a guy that
every Steeler fan wants Kenny Pickett to work out. It's a great story from Pittsburgh. Went to Pitt, gets drafted.
Don't
by
get
the
wrapped up
Steelers.
in the stories.
Okay, I know.
Not you.
I know.
Just
I know.
that's what they got to get away from.
Exactly.
Don't get wrapped up in the story. Get the best quarterback.
We all want to see it work, but it's not going to. It's clear and evident it's not going to. You need to move on.
I think it's a very important question to answer. You're talking about getting the right quarterback. And it was one of the shows I was listening to. I can't remember which show. But it was this week. And they were talking about, well, you know, those guys, like Mahomes is the guy, right? But what they were talking about on the show was how many of those guys are there? So here's my question. All right, I'm going to answer that question, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So how many of those guys are there? There's not –
Joe Burrow.
Hold on. There's not many, okay? So every team, most teams, because those type of guys, really at any time you're in, now, whenever, anytime throughout NFL history, okay, there's only so many of those guys. So most teams cannot have one of those guys. So then my question is, if you don't have one of those guys, right, and again, most of the teams are not going to have those guys because they're limited, then how do you go about things in order to try to win big? How can you, or even can you? How do you win a Super Bowl?
I mean,
if you don't have one of those guys, is it possible to build a team without one of those guys and be a Super Bowl champion?
San Francisco 49ers.
Let's see if they do it this year.
But they haven't won yet.
They haven't won yet, but they've proven that they can.
No, they haven't because they haven't won.
No, I think Purdy
They haven't won a Super Bowl.
is a guy like that.
Well,
You think Purdy's a guy like a Burrow or a Mahomes? Or
he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Allen?
No, he's not
Well,
like
Purdy
Allen.
hasn't been
You
to-
can't-
I mean-
you can't compare him to Allen. He's nothing like Allen. But he even
You
said
can
that. You
compare
see
him
that
to
interview?
Mahomes?
No.
Okay.
No. What I'm saying is
Purdy's not that
no,
guy.
He's
Purdy,
not the perfect
Purdy's no.
quarterback.
He won't
And
be
I
that
don't
guy.
know if he's going to be.
I
that
think
guy.
he will, but I don't think.
I think Purdy would be awful on any other team.
He's definitely not.
So then
Mahomes
he's
or
not that
Allen.
guy.
I think
So
he
the
will
San
be.
Francisco is an example. But
Yeah.
they got to go do it. They got to
If
win
they
3
go
games
do
in
it
a
this
row
year,
now.
then it can be done. I don't think it can be done.
He's not Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, or any of those guys.
Are you
but
saying it
yeah,
can't be done?
I don't think it can be done.
So then what do these teams do? Like again,
No, but
whether
you-
there's
okay.
whether there's 6, 7, or 8 of these guys, whatever, there's not many. So then let's say there's 8. I'm just making up that number. That's 1/4 of the NFL. 3/4 of the NFL don't have that guy.
But
so then how
just
do 3/4 of the teams go about trying to win
could go back
a
to
Super Bowl title?
Nick Foles winning the
just-
Super Bowl
I-
with the Eagles.
I think
mean,
the NFL is changing, and I
Yeah.
think you need one
Yeah.
of those
You
guys
just
because
pray
they
that you get a
do-
CJ Stroud.
it's not a run-first league anymore.
no.
It's a pass-first league, and you need a guy like a Mahomes, like a Burrow, like an Allen that can throw
But
the
can
football.
you build it? Because they always say like the NFL is a copycat league. I think every sport is. I think most things are copycat, right? People jump on something. This is the way. But then everybody does it. So it's like, well, somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to lose. So it's like, oh, see, this is the way. But now everybody's doing it that way. So then my question gets to is this. Is there an outside-the-box way? And maybe it's not the old school way. Maybe it's another new way. But what's another way that teams can legitimately go after a Super Bowl title without having one of those elite quarterbacks?
you wanna-
Defense.
Yeah, defense. You want to have a dominant level running back to. I mean, it gets old eventually, but you
But
gotta
your
have to.
defense
Gotta have
has
a
to be so mistake-free. It has
The
to be
NFL
so
You gotta get a-
Is in a
non-
terrible spot.
a
right?
non-injury prone running back who
Because
can
offense is
consistently
down.
pick up yards.
It has to be
We have that. We have those. We don't have those stats.
As good
Their
as
stats
defenses
Sure,
are,
sure.
you can't make like defense gonna make mistakes. It's just like as good as they are, they're gonna make mistakes. Like the Steelers, as good as their defense is, they're gonna give up touchdowns. I mean, they're gonna give up touchdowns.
Cowboys,
But-
best rated defense in the league, but they relied on turnovers. You didn't get a
Yeah.
turnover, they were terrible. They didn't get a turnover versus the Packers.
Like people are gonna rely on like you see the Giants or the Jets. Like they had a great defense, but they relied on that defense, and defenses aren't perfect.
I don't.
Especially
I
with the
kind of.
league, like
I'm kind of leaning towards what Jacob said. I don't really think it's possible unless you have one of those.
So
to compete at the
Why do
highest
those
level.
teams even bother then?
I-
You got to come up with something.
you wait.
I mean, I think you
until
just wait.
get
I think you
Stroud.
just wait. You make. I mean, the Panthers. If you're like some teams like that, you bet on a
But
quarterback like Bryce Young, and then it doesn't pan out. You're
Isn't
screwed.
that a problem? with the NFL.
Yeah.
So
NFL's. I mean, but the thing with the NFL is it's never going to lose attention. It's never going to lose just because offense is down. It doesn't mean.
But to me, that is such a big problem
That's why
with the
I'm so
NFL.
Big on Mahomes. That's why I'm so big on Mahomes because there's not a lot of players like him. As I'm going to go back, it's like, who do you think the Chiefs like? What like you said, only 8 quarterbacks like that, and he's probably the best quarterback out of that.
I think there's only 5 to 6 quarterbacks like that right now. Maybe 5 to 6
You get
quarterbacks.
so lucky with a guy like that, or like a guy like Lamar, a guy like Allen. Like those other teams are like they're not going to do anything because they don't have that quarterback. That's why I'm like so into this. Like
I mean, I think
Let's look at the guys left.
I think Mahomes, Allen,
Mahomes, Allen,
Hurts. I think you would put Hurts in that conversation.
One at a time. Go ahead.
Let's look at the guys left.
Stroud. I think Stroud. You think you put Stroud in that conversation.
Mahomes, Allen,
Lamar,
and Lamar on the AFC side.
Yeah.
NFC side.
Hurts.
Hurts. No,
you want to say Hurts?
Hurts isn't left.
Oh.
We're talking about left and left.
Oh, okay.
Goff
is gone.
Yeah, Goff.
Goodbye.
Baker.
Purdy.
Wait a minute.
Love.
But those guys.
Love.
But you
and
only
Love.
have
Yeah.
enough teams.
So.
Oh, you're just bringing up the guys that are left.
I'm bringing
in
up
the
the guys that are
playoffs.
left in the playoffs.
Okay.
So let's look at it that way. The guys in the AFC are all those 4 guys. I think we can all agree are
NFC.
that guy
Yeah.
that you need for your team.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll sit back on Stroud for a little bit, but as of right now, I think he is looking like he's going to be.
I think he's pretty.
Everyone in the
right
AFC
now
is
the
one of
way
those
he's
guys.
playing.
Yeah.
I think
Especially with the depleted roster.
All 4 guys on the other side, though, you don't have that feeling about.
I mean, I'm close to having that feeling about Hurts, but not.
Jordan
it's
Love.
Not fully
Jordan
there.
Love
Yeah.
is.
Well,
Jordan
Love
Love
is getting there.
I think.
Jordan Love
But there's
could be
difference
that guy.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud, I just feel like he's elite right now. I feel like as good as we're gonna look
Regardless
at the future, I
of
feel
what
like he's
said.
just playing elite right now. And it's like he's that kind of quarterback right now.
I think.
That's
I
elite.
think Love will get to that point. I think Hurts. I think a Navy coaching change, Hurts will end up at that point.
How much? How much
See,
help
I-
does
Like
Hurts
coaching,
need?
like
This is such. See, you said about the NFL.
yeah.
People are going to watch the NFL no matter what.
Yep. Yeah.
But and I'm a lot older than you guys. And maybe I'm biased. It's like because you tend to when you get older, it's like I like it the way when I was a kid and this and that. Like we're all prone to that. You'll know what I'm talking about as you get older. But like I try my best to objectively
Look at it.
evaluate things, and I look at I would say about all the sports, but we're focused on the NFL now. I look at the NFL product and I'm like, this product is so mediocre. Tom Brady said it, and he has a lot more credibility than I do. Ton more. But the product on the field is mediocre.
Redundant.
They practice a lot less. I think that's a huge thing. You don't practice, the quality's going to go way down. Okay? It's not changing, though. If anything, they're going to practice less and less. So, the rules are designed for the offense, and offense is down. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
I think practice has a huge factor to it. I'm sure there's other factors, too. But the product has declined. But you have these star quarterbacks, all right? And people are going to watch football, fantasy football, gambling. It's once a week. I know it's multiple days, but teams play once a week. Football has so many built-in advantages. The games are events. The Super Bowl's a huge thing. So the NFL is always going to be popular.
It's on a Sunday.
It's not going to decrease in popular. It's on a Sunday.
Football is the only sport where it has a whole day to itself. Sunday, everyone in the country is.
Yeah.
Most people in the
Except when
country
the
is turning
Pistons
into
play
the
at
NFL.
7.
But
Yeah.
if you care about the quality of the product, then they have a major problem. Like it's too like you need stars. So the NFL is good in that regard because it has these stars. But football really is out of the 4 major sports, it's the game that is mostly it's the game that's a team game the most, right? Like baseball is a team game, but it's very individualistic, right? Hockey's a team game, basketball's a team game, but out of the 4 major sports in this country, football is the one where it's most like that. It's a team game, but it's become less and less of a team game because it's so quarterback driven. And again, about a quarter of the league has that guy. 3/4 of the league doesn't. So it's like, what chance do you have? But again, the NFL, like we're raking in the cash.
they don't
People are
care.
going to watch. We got these stars.
Stars, yeah.
Whatever.
Three-fourths of the league is stuck with like Joe Flacco. Like this is as you said, like
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah,
Like people are going out there to watch Tyrod Taylor play.
Week 1 started
Whatever.
Daniel Jones, which whatever.
We want to start pre.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
Jack. Let's bump the NBA today.
Yeah.
But there was a big trade that happened yesterday.
But we only got
Well,
13.
Okay, whatever.
We only got 13 minutes.
No.
Hey, it's a life lesson. That's showbiz. You know, that's. Anyway, we'll get. What's the trade?
Oh, Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers.
Who?
Okay, yeah.
I know who Siakam
Yeah.
is. We all know who Siakam is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the scatter report on him. So we'll talk about that next week. All right.
Yeah.
So divisional round. All right, we got the 4 games. Let's start with Ravens Texans. So that's Saturday at 4:30.
I said it before. I think that there's a shot to this.
I view it similar. I view it similar to the way I view Packers Niners. I think there's a good shot that the underdog could come in and win this one, but I think there's less of a chance that the Packers go in and beat the Niners than Stroud goes in and beats the Ravens, because just the way he's been playing. I mean, the Browns don't look now, but the Browns beat this Ravens team earlier in the season. I know it was with Deshaun Watson; it was a different situation, but I could easily see this story going in. I mean, they're playing free, they're playing loose, they're being coached well. I could see a scenario where the Texans go in and win.
But the Ravens beat the Dolphins 56-19.
Yeah, but the Dolphins never played the Texans, so it was.
Did you notice the tone of my voice when I said that?
Yeah.
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got the Texans winning this game.
Yeah.
Call me a Ravens hater. Call me a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, I know you're being genuine.
I got the Ravens winning, but I'm not like
I don't have it.
confident
I agree. I have the Ravens winning, but not.
This Ravens team just has their games. Lamar is not proven in the playoffs.
Yeah.
By any means. They were the 1 seed in 2019 too. A year that he
Lost
won the
to
MVP.
Tennessee.
Almost the same thing, and he lost to Tennessee.
Division. No, not division.
This defense.
Not-
This defense
It
is.
was a division.
They have all pros at almost every position on this defense. Like you look at this Ravens
CJ
defense.
Stroud picked apart the Browns
Yeah, but
defense.
I mean, look.
Used
at
to be division.
Look at what.
Used to
you
be the
wanna-
Central.
alright,
That's
alright,
why I
so
said that.
You want to call Purdy a system quarterback. You want to say the 49ers don't have any. You say he's never going to be Allen. He's never going to be Mahomes. But looking at what the Ravens defense did to that offense, stymieing possibly one of the best offenses and one of the best coaches we've seen in the NFL in a long time. That I don't really see the Ravens not winning this game, but I suppose it's possible. I'm going to pick the Ravens just because they have everything stacked up for them right now.
I think this is the round where a young, developing team stalls.
Yeah,
Texans have had an excellent year. There's a ton to build on. They got their guy a quarterback. They got their guy a coach. But I think this is where it stops. I think I just you'd have to go back and look at the history.
like
But
we've
I
seen
think the
this so
history
many
shows that a
times.
team like this, you've had a great season, but it's gonna stop here against a veteran team with a veteran quarterback, the MVP, veteran coach, Super Bowl winning coach. A lot of pedigree there. Great organization. Great year for the Texans, but I think it ends this weekend.
I agree.
I can see it being competitive, but I think ultimately
Final score?
I'm going to say Baltimore winds up winning by 2 touchdowns. I think Texans will be competitive, but the Ravens are going to pull away.
I'm going to go 30-23 Ravens.
Just remember, 5 out of the 6 games last weekend were blowouts.
20-17 Texans.
I think the Texans are gonna have to win a different way if they want to beat the Ravens. I think they're gonna win by defense, and they're gonna have to win like Jacob said, 20-17. But I do think it's gonna be a game like. I think that if I was gonna say I would think 30-23 as he said Ravens, but I think it will be a low-scoring game if the Texans take this game out, and I think it's gonna be a very mature game from C.J. Stroud.
I'm very excited to watch it.
I think he's has to play very mature. Not like he doesn't, but like he's a rookie quarterback. I think.
This defense is capable of making any quarterback.
I think he's going to struggle on the road in his first road playoff game.
I mean,
It was nice and cushy in Houston. Hey, look,
I get it was the Browns.
he's terrific. He's probably on his way to an amazing career, maybe a Hall of Fame career. I just think it's a tough spot. Great season. I just think it stalls here for them. Hey, they'll have things to learn from it. They'll have the offseason. They come back next year. Expectation will be higher. I just think it ends this weekend.
agree.
Let's go to.
Oh, it's such a tough game to pick. Lions Bucks.
You want to go Lions-Bucks next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan Campbell.
I as much as I want to say that the Lions are going to win, the way their secondary played, I don't, unless there's some changes made in this week, Like I think Baker's capable of like tossing the ball around on the secondary. Like it's gonna help that they're getting back one of their best pass rushers in James Houston this week because he was inactive last week. But I mean, I trust Baker enough to where he can win this game, even though the Lions are actually favored by 6.5. I'm gonna pick the Bucs.
6.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Bucs here. As much as I want, because a lot of my family members are Lions fans. I do want the Lions. I love the story. I love the Dan Campbell story. But this is not. It doesn't feel like this is. They got to show me, like you said earlier. They got to show me something more in this one in order. I think it'll be close, but I'm going with the Bucs.
I'm going with the Bucs.
Yeah.
I'll go with the Lions. I think it's time for the goofball to throw this ball around.
People said the same thing about the Rams, though.
Who?
The goofball.
Who's the goofball?
Jared Goff.
Yeah. People said the same
Don't
thing
they
about
call him?
I just call him.
Never heard that.
People said the same thing about the Rams, and look at how that turned out, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it again.
I'm just going with an upset here.
Yeah.
Just going with the Bucs. I'm going with Mayfield.
Yeah. I know the Lions at home
I
are
respect-
the Lions at home are a monster, I will say, but I don't know. This is a different Bucs team that they beat earlier in the season. Detroit did.
The
beat
Lions
Bucs
can be beaten all
this
day. They
season.
were handled by
Yeah.
the Packers on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But
I'm going Lions.
Offensively, I think the Lions can win by
I think
running
it's
the
going to be
football
high
and throwing
scoring.
the football.
It's definitely going to be. I think it'll be 27-23 Bucs.
It's a hard decision.
This is probably the toughest game to pick in my opinion.
I think this is where the pressure
Yeah.
gets to Detroit. Baker's
home.
going in. He's confident.
I mean, I could actually see a scenario where this could be a blowout in the Bucs' favor. I could see
In
a
the Bucs'
scenario-
favor?
Yeah, I could see a scenario but
Like, Cowboys.
it's not likely. But I
Packers.
could see a way like with the Lions, and I don't know. I could just see it happening.
I feel like that Cowboys-Packers game is so rare that we all think that blowout's going to happen on the road.
no,
It
yeah.
doesn't usually
No, I'm not
happen
s-
like that. I mean, oh my.
It's just-
if it happens, then I'm going to look so bad. But I just don't feel like people just come into their stadium and blow them out. I think
It doesn't happen often. That's why.
No. And the Cowboys are
Yeah.
just in a different
No, yeah.
kind of dimension of their own, and they could lose like that. But, I think this could be like 30-17. I got the Lions. I think the Lions put it together. I mean, they can beat you offensively in both ways, running the football and
Yeah,
passing the
they
football. I
can.
just think that's too much
Yeah. Especially
for a lot of teams in this league.
this team. Don't remember these teams matched up week 6, and the Lions come out on top 20-6, and that was on the road at Raymond James Stadium without Jahmyr Gibbs, probably one of the most explosive players in the league. So that does work in the Lions' favor there.
Packers, Niners.
Saturday
Saturday night.
Can't pick against the Niners. Okay. I don't. Jordan Love. I mean, it's such a good story. He's definitely the quarterback of the future. But this defense, like the Niners defense, had a chance to get healthy. McCaffrey's healthy now. I could see this. I mean, it's a good story for the Packers, but I don't see this going their favor.
Thank you.
Packers.
It's so.
No. Yeah.
Can you explain?
49ers, but I want to change my upset pick. I want to do one upset pick. I think Texans win, and I think C.J. Stroud opens up that chapter 1 of his story, by winning on his first game on the road. I think that's chapter 1 to his story.
Well, if we're saying the Texans could beat the Ravens, then why can't the Packers beat the Niners?
I don't know.
I think Texans over Ravens is a bigger upset than Packers over Niners.
I think the Niners' week off helps them way more than people
like
think.
they got healthy. I mean, their defense was a little bit shaky.
Likes to make those throws that are
Off the back foot.
off the
Yeah,
back
yeah.
foot. He likes to throw like sidearm, like he
Like
thinks
Mahomes,
he's Patrick
yeah, yeah.
Mahomes. I don't think the Niners fall for that, like the Dallas Cowboys fall for
It's
that.
a different. It's a different team. The Niners are way better coached. They have more discipline.
Look,
it's gonna be
the Cowboys hunt for turnovers so much
yeah.
that they allow for throws like that to happen.
That's why people are saying, "Oh, Deron Bland, defensive player of the year."
Yeah.
All he does is literally just stand there and like jump the route and step in front of the ball. He doesn't actually.
Exactly.
He's not actually a great defensive player.
They
Like,
hunt for turnovers
Yeah.
so much that it allows for throws like that from
Yeah.
Love. And
The
I
Niners
don't
are
think
more
the Niners are
More disciplined.
going to do that. I don't
Yeah.
think they're going to allow him to throw like that. And I think he's going to have to drop back normally and throw the ball.
which is
right?
where you saw early season
And
Packers.
let's not forget that
Yeah.
Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, all
Chase
these
Young.
guys,
Pretty good.
Chase Young.
They're pretty
Chase
good.
Young, they've been off for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
They're going to be flying around.
Yeah.
There's no way Jordan Love
No.
wins this football
Yeah, I
game.
agree.
I'm
I
sorry.
Wow.
I'm actually might
No
even.
way.
No
I'm
one
going
gave him a
Niners.
chance
I'm gonna go
last week.
31-17
I'm going Niners.
I'm gonna go.
Who gave him a chance
31
last week?
and 10.
I did.
One thing
It's
about
the Cowboys.
one thing about the Niners too. And
Yeah,
Always got a chance
who
versus the
who
Cowboys.
was giving Green Bay a chance last
I
week?
wrote in my bracket
Yeah,
last
but-
second before the game started was the Cowboys were gonna win.
One
Maybe
thing-
it was biased.
one thing about this game is too.
You said the Cowboys were going to win.
No, I said the Packers. I
Don't
think it was biased.
I mean, don't
but-
forget.
What? The Cowboys were gonna win last second. Packers were gonna win last
Yeah,
second.
but I mean, who was really giving Green Bay a chance
But I
last?
feel like the
It's easy to say no, the Cowboys they failed in the playoffs. Like, even if people say, well, yeah, it's Cowboys, but they're going to win this game. They're
One-
better than the Packers. They'll win easily, and then they got crushed.
One last thing about this game.
49ers are
The
different.
49ers, the Cowboys, they still put up 32 points on this defense. When I know they
Yeah,
might
that's
have been a blowout,
those are
but
garbage
you
points.
realize
They didn't really put
the
up
game
30.
was
They had so many more opportunities. The Cowboys had so many opportunities to score and score more points on offense. But I think the Niners will capitalize a lot. They'll be able to score at will on this defense. It's going to be 31-17, just like the Steelers-Bills scored. Niners.
Things happen. That's my reason. Jordan Love, things happen. Green Bay is feeling good. I don't know. I'm going to take the Packers.
Do you think?
I think it's more likely that the Texans beat the Ravens than the Packers beat the Niners.
Do you think
That's how I feel.
Do you think are you saying for the 49ers? Do you think this is a big for like Brock Purdy to do like kind of? I don't want to say epic
I
failure.
mean, he
but
won
I
the
know,
first.
I think
He won his first two
but
playoff games.
Are you like kind of
before
like banking on Brock
tearing
Purdy
his elbow
going like?
in the
Yeah, the 2 playoff games he won. He beat
Yeah.
the Seahawks, weren't that good.
Yeah.
Snuck in the playoffs. And then he beat the Dallas Cowboys. I don't give anybody credit for beating the Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, I think they would have beat the Eagles if he didn't blow his UCL out.
No. You're supposed to win that game.
But the Cowboys, he's a rookie quarter. No.
No, the Niners last year.
No, still.
The Niners,
but he's
they
a
play.
rookie.
I mean, but the
He's
Cowboys
a-
at home. Remember the Cowboys kicker was missing all these kicks. The Cowboys were a disaster.
He's a,
Come
but
on.
he's a
Ezekiel
rookie.
Elliott at center.
But he was a rookie going into his second.
I know, but let's
playoff.
stop treating Brock Purdy like he's Joe Montana.
I'm not
come on.
treating like.
Stop.
Okay, but if he was awful, then how come?
Right, so take the 2 quarterbacks in this game. If Jordan Love goes out there,
Yeah,
plays like Jordan Love has a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy.
No.
You know I think defense. That's the first thing I think.
That's not possible.
I'm a Steelers fan. I think defense.
Well, you got to adapt to the modern NFL.
Niners-
I don't care about the
You got to put up points, man.
Well, offense, CMC.
CMC.
Offense,
back.
Deebo Samuel.
Ayuk.
defensive team.
Yeah.
Like I said before,
Warner,
Nick Bosa,
Chase
Young,
Young,
Dre
Greenlaw,
Greenlaw.
Ward.
Frank Warner.
Yeah.
They're not beating that.
Yeah.
They're not beating that. He's not going to allow it. After 2 weeks, you don't think Nick Bosa is going to be flying around the football field?
I think they'll be able to score. I could see the 49ers scoring 40 on the Packers.
This is where.
Yeah.
This
I
is,
do-
this
yeah.
is where.
I'll do it too.
No. This is where talent wins out. I just feel like no. This is where, no. This is where.
I mean,
talent
if I was
wins
being
out.
consistent,
I wouldn't
I'll
even-
say this, because I said about the Texans that their run is gonna stop here for this year, but they had a great year. So like
Why do you
the
feel different
Packers
about the
are in a similar situation, but
Stroud's
here's
better
where
than
it's not
Love.
similar. The Packers are there every year. The Texans are not. So the Texans are
LaFleur's used
the
to it.
Texans are truly
They got a rookie-
rebuilding.
They got a rookie head
The
coach.
Packers
for
are
rookie-
the Packers had a new quarterback this year, right? It's their transition from Rodgers to Love. They went so the Packers with quarterbacks like the Steelers with coaches. Went from Favre to Rodgers, now to Love. So the Packers are a different situation than the Texans. There's similarities there, but there's some key differences.
I agree.
Okay, so I don't look at them the same way. And look, you guys are breaking it down. It all makes sense. Upsets happen. I'm just rolling the dice to go with the Packers.
All right. I mean, I would pick the Niners even if this game was at Lambeau. And now that it's in Santa Clara, it's just even more of a boost.
We got one more game.
Yep.
They're doing it again, but this time in the playoffs is in Buffalo.
Chiefs are on the
Chiefs
road.
and Bills.
I'm gonna go with the Bills. I can't trust this Chiefs. I mean, Rice is coming into his own as a leader of this receiving core, and you got Mahomes, like Jack said. But I can't trust this defense to. I mean, it's been good this year, but I think Allen has a great game. I think the Bills win this game in convincing fashion, but not a blowout. But I think they win by a score. I just don't think the Chiefs will be able to keep up with that offense. I mean, unless you get Allen off the field, the Bills are not going to be able to be stopped by this defense.
Does Allen protect the football?
I mean,
If he protects it, they win.
yeah. I think this changes. I think it changes. Yeah, I agree.
Is your mic on? I can't hear you. It's on? Okay.
The Bills game to win. I think it hasn't been all year. I think this is it. The Bills win this game, go to the AFC.
I'm going to say 35. 35-28 Bills.
Jack?
Wait. So I'm gonna say 27. Wait, what's the weather?
Cold.
Yeah, you see the thing where people, the Bills are complaining about having to play in that weather. They literally built their new stadium because football is supposed to be played in the elements, and now they're complaining about the weather.
23-17.
If you're gonna build a stadium, then build a roof on. Build a roof on it if you don't like. Yeah. No.
That's the hardest place to play in the NFL. They got slaughtered by Cincinnati last year in the playoffs.
Cincinnati's.
But how is that the hardest place to play in the NFL? They just got blown out last year in the playoffs. I have to think about it, but my knee-jerk reaction is not Buffalo.
I would argue Cleveland because, I mean, you see the Niners.
That. Cleveland.
Yeah, but
you got to be a winning franchise.
Yeah, but the Niners lost. I mean,
why? Because the people have the dog mask on? Come on.
Paper bags because they're awful organizations.
Cleveland.
What, that defense? You got Myles Garrett. You got Myles Garrett.
I mean, Pittsburgh's a tougher place to play than Cleveland. I say Pittsburgh's a tougher place than Buffalo.
I'm trying to think. I mean, yeah, he does have a point.
Why?
No, you have a good point. I do think the Bills are up there. I don't see any others. There's not. Yeah.
Yeah, the Steelers, the terrible towels.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
my knee-jerk reaction was they got crushed in the playoffs.
Yeah, Bills. Stop. Bengals, no. Yeah. Yeah. I used to think Philly was the hardest place to play in the league.
What about Lambeau Field?
Yeah, he has to play it. But I mean, is that just weather based, or is that just like actual? Like, I don't think Packers fans are like the same as Bills Mafia in any way.
I think it was Tua that said it though with the terrible towels.
Yeah.
When those are waving, if you look up, you're throwing an interception.
Yeah. Well, Tua, yeah.
All right.
Was ITV?
Sorry, Bills 35-32.
I get the Bills. Score.
That was our first clean sweep. Everyone has
Score. How many did the Bills score against the Steelers?
31.
I think it's be close. 31-24.
One score.
All right, so we're looking forward to divisional weekend. You got the 4 games, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. We'll be watching. I know you'll be watching as well. Thank you for joining us today for In the Vault. We'll be back next week. We'll be recapping the divisional weekend, previewing the conference championship games. We'll definitely have a lot of NBA talk. Jack, I know, is looking forward to that with the trade that happened, talking some Knicks. We'll see if anything happens in baseball. If it does, we'll be talking about it. And we're going to talk some college basketball, too, at some point because it's in full swing. And my Seton Hall Pirates are playing excellent big game against Creighton on Saturday. So great time of year for sports. Again, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back in a few minutes. Girls basketball, doubleheader today. Varsity at 4, JV 5:30. The Dayton Bulldogs are coming here to take on your Union Catholic Vikings. So back in a few minutes. Again, thank you for joining us for today's In the Vault episode.